How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully it's having a lovely day. So Reds GM Nick Cross says, hey, Reds are pretty much done making big moves for this free agency. Maybe they pick up a couple depth guys, but he said, you know what, expect the splashes to be kind of out the door at this point after the Reds signed hurler Frankie Montas. And I'm going to take a look back and say, how did we think the Reds did this offseason? I thought Montas is a perfect example, and this is just what the Reds have been trying to do, and you gotta appreciate and respect, because you gotta remember what situation the Reds are in here. Yeah, it'd be great to go out there and sign some pitcher, some ace, and lock this guy down, or some bat and lock this guy down. That's some stud. Say, hey, let's throw some. We got the cap, we got the payroll. Let's throw somebody 25, 30 million a year. The thing is, it's a difficult situation because most of those guys in free agency, they're going to want, anywhere from 7 to 10 years probably. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of options either. And not only that, if it's a good one, he's in free agency, you're competing with the Dodgers, the Yankees, and these teams that are just going to throw him any sorts of money. And the Reds just can't compete with that, where they can afford to overpay a guy by $8 million a year. And if he doesn't turn out, it's fine because they just have money out the rear end they can use. So that's the situation the Reds say, we got to be careful we don't do that. They have done something, they haven't done something like that in the past, but they don't, Mike Moustakas, where they started slinging money around to guys. Even for then 4 years, you have to remember there is a lot of, chance in some free agent moves. But you have to look and say, hey, the Reds know they couldn't do that because they have all these young players on this team. You don't want to lock down a veteran that's going to be 34, 35, 36 in 4 years when you want to try to sign guys like Ellie, McLean, Hunter, or Lodolo, Abbott. These guys are going to be coming up on the books. You're going to want them on your team. The last thing you want to do is say, hey, we have to let this guy walk because we have a 35-year-old pitcher that's a fourth man in the rotation now. So I understood completely why the Reds took the direction they did, which makes things a bit of a challenge. But I thought you looked and seen this Reds approach, and you seen they tried to snip at any deal, any bargain, any option they've seen with high ceilings here in the offseason. Candelario is a prime example that you bring in the Great American Ballpark. He's still ain't hitting the 30 home runs, but the guy's a doubles machine. He's he can drive a lot of guys in. And you look at a guy like that and see you put him in a different situation, he can get high. He can go out there and produce at a high level for the Reds. You bring in Martinez. He's got the flexibility, who proved himself last season that could be a solid starter. If not, he can log bullpen innings. Pagan, same story. Add some depth to the bullpen. You're adding areas where you say, hey, there's potential for these guys. There's ceilings for these guys to really move up in the pecking order and, be top 3 players in their position for the Reds. Of course, top 5, top 4, top 5 players in a position. Depending how you look at it, obviously, pitcher. You look at Martinez, says he could be a top 3 guy in a rotation, a top 4 guy in a rotation, which is all right for what the Reds are looking for. You obviously would like an even better guy because you want to solidify the top of the rotation, but you look and say you feel like he can give you the 4th spot with the potential to be in a number 2. You look at Candelario and say you feel like he can give you a 5th, 6th in the order numbers with the potential to be a really solid number 3 in the order. You look at Pagani, you say middle of the bullpen guy, he's going to log you some solid innings where it doesn't feel like he's out of whack, but he could wiggle his way into the back end of the bullpen. And you say that's kind of what you want when you're the Reds. You want to try to find these kind of gems that can grow into their position. Montas, another one's like you feel like he's a number 3. He could give you ace material. You'll see. And Montas I love the Montas one because I seen the graphic on the internet the other day. And it's like, man, which one's Frankie Montas and which one's Tyler Glass? Now, there was so much talk about Tyler Glass now this offseason. The team's got to get him. Reds should get him. And, that happens at free agency. If there's not a lot out there, you're still going to, you're going to hype up one of the top free agent prospects. His numbers are nearly identical to Frankie Montas. Nearly identical. One of them costs $9 million more a year. Again, a prime example. Well over 5 by 21, 23, 6 more. Well, it's almost $10 million more a year. It was $10 million a year, right? Yeah, I thought it was. It was. I'm trying to do the math now. 16, 26. Yeah, it was close to that. And again, if you can get a guy $10 million off for really the same relative price, you're doing a good job. Now, sure, it's a short-term deal, but that's just better for the Reds. What was crazy about Glass now is you look at that guy and how much, how hyped he was. This man has started more than 15 games a year once in his career. Now he's going to get paid that bag. 21 starts was the most he's ever had. He's had injury problems. Yeah, that's the reason Montas is on sale, but it's like, This guy's had the same problem. So you, again, excellent job by Krall and this organization to just scoop up these guys flying under the radar. Teams don't have their eyes set completely on it, picking up deals on these guys, giving them an opportunity to play. Because that's, best situation Reds can do here. Because again, you don't want to get tied down to too many players, because what if one of your young guys break out? You want to make sure you're locking those guys down, and you don't want to get caught. And again, Montas, perfect example. Glass, not perfect example. Last thing you're going to do is sign that guy to a 6-year contract, and he doesn't come back from them injuries, or he continues to prove he's injury prone or whatever. Especially when you look at that low pitching order, and this is the difficult situation Reds are in. There was not a good starting pitching team last season from an ERA perspective. But as a fan, as the organization, you look and say, hey, we believe in these guys we drafted. We believe in our prospects. We believe in these guys in a rotation, that they're young and they're going to grow and improve. So if we was not good last year, but if they take a step ahead this year and say, instead of 4.5, they got a 4 ERA, instead of 4.2, 3.7, you expect that sort of growth out of your starters. The last thing you're going to do is, again, bury those guys. So you allow yourself the flexibility with what they did this season. You got a guy you can go in and out of the bullpen. You did clog up one more starting pitcher in Montas. I thought they did a great job there. Overall, I really liked what the Reds did this offseason. You didn't want to get too aggressive. The only thing you would have liked to see them doing, again, you don't want to get too aggressive. You don't overpay. I would have liked to see them try to trade for a starting pitcher under team control. That was the one thing, but that's just, I hate to say it, but it's wishful thinking. It's just, again, we talked about this. It's just like the situation with the Reds. We made a video. We talked about it. We said, if the Reds really want a number 1, 2, 3 guy in a rotation with team control for 3-4 years, that's young, they're going to have to give up an Elliott, or not an Elliott, but, they're going to have to give up a Strand or a Marte or a Steer. And Reds fans thought I was crazy. And they laughed at me like, you're an idiot. Like, no. That's exactly what those teams fans are thinking. That's exactly what their GM's thinking. You think we're going to give up? You think we're going to give up our number 2 or our number 3 for nothing? Not a chance. And that's why the trade didn't happen, because nobody's going to do that. Not in baseball, where we have team control for 6 years and how important it is to try to keep these young guys on your team. It just wasn't going to happen unless you overpaid or paid a substantial amount. I don't think the Reds were willing to do that. So I understand where they came from, but I would have loved to see them make that move. And that's probably what stopped me from saying, hey, big free agent, give him that A. I'm sitting closer to like a grade of a B, maybe a B plus. I mean, we're gonna look back on this and see how it turns out. But I just like how methodical they was this season, where they weren't over pursuing it. They did spend money though. They said, hey, we're gonna put some money to work and try to figure things out, but we're not gonna get tied down to one player. They could have spent all that money on 2 players, or all that money on 1 player, and then all your chips are in the bag on those 1 or 2 players turning out. But now you have 4 players, and you say, hey, if half of these guys, maybe more, can give us really good numbers, we're gonna be happy. Love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.